Hello, everybody, and welcome to the White Hatter YouTube News Show. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Darren.
We got some interesting topics here this week.
Guess what?
What?
Halloween was last night.
It was last night.
It was last night. And,
we're in November now.
We're in November 1st. And you know what?
What?
It's 54 sleeps until Christmas!
Which will be 53 when this video goes up.
Yes. I mean, I got my Christmas counter on that. I mean, November 11th here in Canada is Remembrance Day. That's where I'm wearing the poppy, right? Which is Canada's National Day of Remembrance of those who served in the wars as our country and that kind of stuff. And then November 12th, Christmas decorations are going up. I'm so excited. Anyways, back on topic.
So here on the show this week, we're talking about Facebook's new name change. We're talking about regulating social media companies, TikTok trends, and people being kind of
Juvenoid.
Yeah, over some of the content we're seeing with kids.
Stupid.
And overall,
they're being stupid.
And overall safety. Let's get into the show, shall we?
In the news.
First topic is Facebook's new name is Meta.
Meta.
Kind of on the nose of what they're trying to accomplish.
You know, it's kind of funny, right? I read a number of articles over the weekend, and they, as you know, Facebook has been getting huge hits in the media because of that big data leak, right? And so, you know, a lot of people said that one of the reasons why they released this last week was to kind of gaslight, to get off of all the negativity to talk about this, and to a degree it worked.
I guess. I mean, a name change like this, it takes months in the making.
No, I know, but I think that they probably released it last week to try and change the narrative about how their company, but guess what? Another whistleblower has become public, so I think the heat's going to be back on again. But for those people who don't know what the metaverse is, what is the metaverse?
Basically, it's an attempt of trying to create an online platform ecosystem where everything you need virtually and physically is available to you. A lot of games and even animated shows and movies try to simulate this in some way, where there's one online platform. You go, everything you want to play games, do banking, hang out with your friends. Everything is a one-stop shop.
That's what I was going to say. It's kind of like a one-stop shop where instead of signing into your Twitter or into your Instagram or into your Facebook or into your TikTok, you can do it all in one place, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's a big rush on right now to see who's going to be first to market on this, right? Because it's not just Facebook that's toying around this, but Amazon is, Google is, like the big players are messing around with this right now.
Yeah, I mean, if there is an online platform and it provides everything you need virtually, obviously the first to market is going to get most users. And theoretically, if everything you need is on Meta, but Amazon has theirs and Google has theirs, but they all offer the same thing, it's probably going to be the platform you first join that you're going to be loyal to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Given all the negativity that Facebook is going right now, like I think they're getting a lot of people, not a lot of people, but they're getting a significant number of people dropping off their platform because of all the negative issues that are going on. I mean, you know, all this negativity that's coming out about Facebook and all the things that have become public really is nothing new to us, right? Like we know that they've been doing that for years. And, you know, we use our Facebook page specifically for a specific reason and how we post things as a company, right? That's what we use it for and how it is. But it'll be very interesting, right? Like if they're first to market, will it draw back people who they've lost? Good question. I think it'll depend upon the metaverse platform. Right?
That's if they are able to offer everything that they are intending. And I think with the whole broadcast and announcement, I saw some tech enthusiasts talking about how basically Zuckerberg here is taking credit for every technological advance that comes with virtual reality. And
to a degree, I think Facebook has been the catalyst because they are the biggest when it comes to social media.
Because they keep buying everybody else.
That's true. That's what they're doing. That's an issue.
It's like, hey, Oculus, you're doing VR? Buy ya.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly. Is it just me, or does, you know, Zuckerberg, does he just kind of put a bowl on his head to cut his hair? Like, how does he do that, right? Just saying. It'll be interesting. Like, you know, I still think that the reason they announced it last week was to take some of the heat off of all the negativity, to talk about this new thing called a metaverse. right? And so, but it'll be interesting to see where this develops. Again, I think there's a big rush right on. Like, I know Google's looking at Amazon. Everybody's looking because they want to be first to market, because they know if they're first, they're going to get the people in, right? And once they're in, they basically have them, probably, right? So interesting.
Speaking of which, and them kind of incorporating all kinds of things into the platform, leaked photos may show Meta's, or Facebook's, what you want to call it now.
Yeah, we got to get used to that, right? Meta equals Facebook.
Well, I mean, it's like Google, where Google changed its name to Alphabet, which is its overarching company. Right. They still kept Google as a brand name.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, maybe Facebook wanted to get rid of Facebook.
Interesting how Meta's watch kind of looks like the iWatch? Just saying.
A lot of smartwatch. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
What's the difference? Like, what are they promoting that this has that the Apple Watch doesn't?
The big thing showing in these are all leaked images and but what's being proposed here is that there is a front-facing camera on the smartwatch.
Okay, kind of like Dick Tracy, right? The old comic book Dick Tracy, right? Even before my years, when it was first created, where they had, Dick Tracy had the phone in the shoe that he could talk to, or his watch where he could talk to people around the world using his watch. I mean, I know that the Apple Watch, there are third-party aftermarket wristbands that have a camera built right into it, so you can do the same thing, right? So and I bet you that Facebook has been messing around with trying to figure out how to put a front-facing camera on their watch as well.
I think a lot of people are questioning, is that even needed?
I know.
I mean, phone, flick up, picture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that hard to
But what about people who have the cellular data iPhone, so they don't have to carry their phone with them, right? They could have it on their watch, right? Because they don't have the phone with them. They're using their watch.
I mean, the people I've seen who've done that are those people who are like running and they have no pockets and they're super tight athletic wear, and they have no pockets for their phone. But even then, I think from my experience, from what I've seen, most people who are working out or running have their phones with them anyways.
The other thing is, this could be dangerous, having a front-facing camera on your watch, depending upon what you're doing with your hand.
Oh, if you're going to the bathroom or something?
No comment. Like, it could be very interesting, right? Because again,
if the camera was accidentally on,
like, oh my god, right? I'm just saying.
And if it's like Facebook smart glasses, the photos get uploaded to Facebook.
Like,
wait, what?
I know.
What?
I know. Anyways, so but it's probably going to come in cheaper than the iWatch 2, right? Like, I would imagine that's
the Apple Watch.
Else,
I mean, we'll see. I mean,
or Meta's watch,
whatever they're gonna call it. I mean, the Facebook smart glasses is it's the Facebook. What do you call it now?
Which one?
They're sunglasses.
The VR or the Ray-Bans?
Yeah.
Or Meta's face. You got to call it Meta now.
No,
right?
they're gonna keep Facebook as a brand name.
All right.
Although they may want to remove that.
Right.
I mean, right?
Yeah, they're Facebook is using Ray-Ban sunglasses.
Yeah. But what's the actual name of those glasses?
Ray-Ban.
But there's a product name for those.
No, they're called Ray-Ban sunglasses, right? I think you're thinking Snapchats.
No, those are the spectacles.
Yeah, Spectacle 4.
Yeah, but there's an actual name for the Ray-Ban.
You sure?
Ray-Ban Stories. That's what they're called.
Ray-Ban Stories.
That's what those glasses are called.
Okay.
So the Facebook branding is not in the product name. Ray-Ban Stories.
All right.
Interesting.
I still think they're kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
They actually look like sunglasses, unlike some of the others that are out there, right? They look like Max Headroom's glasses from the old videos in the 80s, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, it'll be interesting, but the more I think about putting a front-facing camera on a watch, it could get pretty dangerous, right? Depending upon what you're doing with that hand. Just saying.
Next article.
All right.
Speaking of social media companies, Facebook, Google, Twitter, TikTok grilled by lawmakers in the UK over child safety failures.
So what's going on this one?
So in a 5-hour parliament questioning period in the UK, in preparation for the online safety bill, these social media companies were brought in through representatives to discuss and question over their behavior and attempts at removing, blocking criminal and illegal content, especially around child safety. Right. So in the current proposed bill, it would see social media companies who would fail their accountability for safety could be fined $25 million or 10% of their annual revenue, whichever is higher, if they fail to remove harmful or illegal content, as well to block site and services and all that wonderful stuff.
Don't disagree with it. And the reason is because, I know a lot of these sites already have terms of service in place that basically prohibit a lot of what this bill is going to say.
Yeah.
But if a company doesn't do anything about it, like if there are no consequences to actions, like what impetus is there for them to enforce that? Because there's not. But if all of a sudden they're getting hit with a $25 million fine or 10% of their gross income, and they're getting hit with multiples of these, they're going to start paying attention. They're going to do a little bit more than what they're doing now to help kind of deal with some of this stuff, in my opinion. And I know that you don't necessarily have the same opinion as I do, but
Well, okay, so
because they're trying to get around safe harbor here, right? Because that's what I think it's Section 230 in the United States is safe harbor, or 320, but I think it's 230.
But basically, online platforms are not responsible for what their users post. It is the users who are responsible for what they post.
See, I disagree with that. I do think that users should be held responsible, but I also think to a degree there should be some liability on the social networks who are hosting these individuals, where they knowingly are hosting things that are clear violations of either their terms of service or the law.
So here's a couple issues with this.
So here's what I'm going to say about that.
All this overall, and it was Facebook's representatives that kind of brought this up.
Of course.
No. So Google. It was Google. Google brought this up.
But even of course.
The terminology and the wording so broad, illegal and harmful content. And Google asked, okay, what does that entail?
Right.
Define it, because how it's written so far is and it could change.
Right.
But it could not, is that it's widely open to interpretation.
Right.
In that if I post something you find offensive, does that count?
Right. So we don't know yet until we see the final document, the draft document, before it goes to Parliament to be voted on.
Which is the whole point of this.
Right. So we'll see the whole document. And then even after it is approved, if it gets approved, I still think because it becomes law, well, then companies like Facebook, Google, Twitter, or TikTok will have the ability, if they want, to challenge, appeal it to a court, and then the court is going to make a decision, right? So, and I do think that what you'll see happen here is, I know that the government is looking to create like an e-safety commissioner office like they did in Australia, right? Where they have a designated group whose job it will be to enforce these types of laws. So if that group identifies a specific issue and then they bring it to the attention of the platform does nothing to deal with it, well then guess what? Hit them.
Okay, that I agree with. That makes sense because how it's kind of written so far is that any content that is posted that is in violation of what this law states, harmful and illegal content, even though these companies have systems in place to detect and remove this content, it does. Some things get through, and in good faith, they are operating on a large scale through artificial intelligence to remove this content already. So if any little thing gets slipped through, even though they have good intentions, then what? They get fined.
I always think that if they were acting in good faith, there may be an exception put in there by the courts. I think the courts are going to have to make that decision. But I also think that this is another reason why they want to go to full encryption, right? Because once it's fully encrypted, then how are you going to see this kind of stuff? Right? It's going to be very interesting. But again, I do think that we need to start hitting. I think Section 230, I understand why from a creativity standpoint it is important, because if companies only in North America and Britain are getting hit by this, but say companies in Russia and China aren't, then the companies in China or Russia are going to have an advantage, right? So,
indeed.
Right? But I do still think that there needs to be some financial accountability, because the only thing that makes any sense to any of these big vendors is hitting them in the pocketbook. And $25 million is a drop in the bucket to Facebook or Google or Twitter, right? It really is, or even TikTok now. However, 10% of their annual income isn't. And if they get hit with multiples of these, I think they're going to start to stand up and pay attention.
I agree. Or if this is brought into effect because of a third-party government-paid regulating body or watchdog brings things to the attention and they don't follow through, I think that makes most sense.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens.
Because what we're seeing, I think TikTok right now has probably the most.
It is. It's one of the best. It's one of the best.
It has one of the most strict policies and most aggressive automatically removing and banning people.
Yeah, I think this year they reported out 10 or 20 million posts.
But the problem is where a lot of actual creators who are posting really good stuff is they are getting banned or removed because their content maybe slightly dips into like sexual health educators on TikTok have had their accounts and content removed and blocked because it violated their sexual content.
So I think
are we about, because if this legislation is to go through, then every platform would have to be as strict as TikTok. And do you really want good educational content to be removed because of potential fear of being fined $25 million?
Well, I think that's where the court will come into play then, right? I think what'll happen is, if it's a video that's truly about healthy human sexuality, and that's what they're talking about, not under the guise of, and not porn or hypersexualized behavior under the guise of healthy human sexuality, well, then those platforms will be able to appeal it, and then we'll probably let a court or a tribunal make a decision on that.
But it's not going to be. But it's going to be the artificial intelligence. It's going to automatically ban that anyways.
Well, that's something that these platforms are going to have to deal with, right? Like, I still truly believe that the individual who's creating this hurtful, hateful, whatever it is they're going to call it, are the ones that have to hold the highest liability because they're the ones posting it. However, I do think that these platforms also have a responsibility, right? I mean, you talked about, I think it was last show or the show before that, over the fact that some of these platforms will allow certain individuals more leeway when it comes to hateful, hurtful behaviors being said online and not ban them where others they do, because they know that the people who they don't ban draw more people into their platforms.
Yeah, and I think something like that,
that's wrong.
Fair enough. There needs to be
needs
to be accountability for that. Everybody needs to be held at the same account. No one gets a do not ban list. No one gets put on that. Everyone's content is rated the same. Yeah. But then again, we have somebody who's talking about, say, for example, sexual health. Yeah. In terms of how things are interpreted.
And it'll be interesting to see if this law allows some malleability, right? Because as time goes on, morals and ethics change, right? And so laws is a good example. We had several laws in the books on the criminal code that are no longer there anymore because they're just outside of the ethical and moral bounds of current real world situations, right? So it'll be interesting. I think that we need to, these are great pre-discussions, but I think until we actually see the bill and actually read the bill, then we can start to drill down a little bit more. But having discussions like this,
it's better to have discussions before it goes into law.
I agree.
Because we need to address the flaw. And as some of these organizations brought to the attention is, but you have to be specific because what might be hurtful for you may not be hurtful to somebody else.
I agree. But I do think that until these major platforms know they're going to get hit financially, there's no impetus for them to change anything, right? So let's hit them.
Yeah. But then they go to full encryption, and then there we go.
We'll see.
They get around that, which prevents things from a safety standpoint you want anyways also. So
it'll be interesting.
Speaking of safety and responsibility,
this one kills me.
I've seen a couple headlines over the last week discussing this, and other articles about Squid Games altogether. So we'll talk about all kinds of things about this. So, a young individual suffers horrific third-degree burns from attempting a Squid Game Honeycomb challenge, where they got themselves injured because they were cooking with hot sugar.
Okay, can I just say something here? People have been burning themselves, both youth and adults, since cooking became a thing. In fact, didn't we do a quick search on Google?
Yeah, so I mean, for last year, more burn injuries are occurring in kitchens during pandemic. Thanksgiving may see a rise in these accidents.
I mean, it's just, it happens. I've also been reading some of these things about the Squid Games and stuff. Now, I mean, there's a good example. I saw several warnings going out by safety people going, "Oh, be careful! The kids are playing red light, green light because of Squid Games on the schoolyard." Well, you know what? I was playing red light, green light. I think it was called Red Rover, Can Mary Come Over, right? I mean, it's. I played that when I was in elementary school as well, right? Like, yeah. So they're playing green light, red light. I mean, it's a game, right? Now the difference is, however, if they're playing red light and green light, and the person loses, gets beat up or assaulted, that's different. But guess what? That's not what's happening.
And that's what a lot of warnings have said that, or there've been reports of that. But I've seen some secondary sources who are talking about that stuff, and they're not talking about the after effects where young people may get beat up because of that. And that's like, if you're playing tag, right? You're playing tag, and then you
tackle the person.
Tag is not in Squid Games, but if your own little school group,
they're having a season 2 coming out.
Yeah, true. Whatever games they bring to that one. But let's say there's a tag. From this point in time, tag is not in Squid Games.
No.
And if your little school group and if your little community rules are the loser gets beat up, well, hey, no.
Like I've watched Squid Games, right? Like I've watched it, and I do think that for some families, some of the gore and violence that takes place in Squid Games would not fall within some family values and ethics for younger kids.
Makes sense.
But so do movies like The Purge or some of the other ones that are out there.
Yeah.
But if
there are worse things on Netflix than Squid Games.
Like it's interesting, right? Like per se, but it seemed like this is all of a sudden taken over. Like, didn't you say that there were schools that were banning Squid Game costumes?
Again, there's a lot of things to talk about this in the last 2 weeks or so. Where so there were some reports for Halloween where some schools and school districts were putting notices where costumes related to Squid Games would be banned, and they incorporated that ban in the same policy as no toy weapons and no over sexualized outfits.
Okay.
And they wrapped Squid Game out costumes in that same policy.
So what about a kid who comes to school dressed in the Chucky outfit? Because Chucky, there's a new Chucky series out now, right? Like,
or Jason,
you know,
or a kid
or the coyote off of the Roadrunner. Have you ever seen some of the violence? Now, some people will say, "Well, that's just cartoon violence, right?" Well, yeah,
it still symbolizes horrible, terrible stuff.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I do think, especially for those under the age of 16, the graphic nature when it comes to violence and gore in Squid Games may not be appropriate, right?
True.
Like, I totally get it. But neither is some of the gore and violence that we see in some of the other shows and movies that kids watch.
Or a young person who comes to school dressed as Thanos, who removes half the universe's population. I mean, that's a pretty violent, significant behavior. So, I mean, So, I guess relating back to this one, if you don't know, Honeycomb challenge, it's a particular recipe that's in South Korean cuisine culture, and what would happen is that you North America would be oftentimes just call it honeycomb, and you put a little symbol in there, and you have to kind of chop it out, because it's brittle and it can break. That's the challenge. So I saw some people online saying how Squid Games should have a warning when it brings up the honeycomb, and it says, "Do not attempt at home." So wait, what? Should every cooking show on Food Network have a "do not attempt at home" because of this issue?
Or what about Home Alone, the movie? All the violence.
Well, that's
don't
violent.
attempt this at home, right? Like again, we
pretending to be a superhero for Marvel. Do not jump from buildings.
It's again. Don't get us wrong. The people who are watching us, Squid Games. Again, the violence and gore in Squid Games is not necessarily appropriate for families of children under the age of 16.
Yeah, base it off of your family values.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, but oh my God, just to say that, don't play red light, green light, come on. What are we doing? Juvenile moral panic, as we like to call it.
I've seen a couple of headlines like that are really kind of putting Squid Games and TikTok together. And I think because those are two very hot topic subjects, and you combine them both together, which I know a lot of parents and caregivers are already kind of on high alert because of Squid Games and TikTok. So I think, So, I mean, I get it. It's absolutely terrible that a person got burned because of trying to cook. They weren't having proper supervision or training on how to cook. But
so are thousands of other people.
It's
not just because of this, but just because of cooking with hot things, right? Both adults and kids, right?
On Food Network cooking something with hot oil, and you decide to cook yourself, and you have never cooked with hot oil before.
Exactly. Right, or trying to put out an oil fire with water, right? But again,
But is it Squid Game's fault or TikTok's fault? No, it's not. No. So,
when I started to read these warnings going to homes and families, like we had a couple of families connect with us asking about Squid Games and the red light, green light, and I put it into perspective. I played the same game when I was in elementary school, right? If that's all they're doing and seeing who the winner is, then not a big deal. But if the losers are getting assaulted as a result of that, then there's an issue there. But from what I've read in the reporting, that wasn't happening, right? Yeah, maybe one or two.
In some
happened.
cases, yeah.
Yeah, maybe in a couple
from
cases.
The reporting, but
right, but not the majority of cases. Right?
Yeah.
So,
anyway, so that's the news from last week.
Yeah, I kind of like this new format, right? Where we're kind of talking about privacy and security issues, but also talking about current events that are of interest to everybody, right? So kind of cool.
Alrighty.
Hey, did I mention it was only 54 more sleeps until Christmas?
Which will be 53 when this goes out.
That's right. Yoo-hoo.
Okay. Well, that'll be 7 days sooner next week.
That's true.
All right.
That's true.
We'll see you then.
On behalf of myself, I'm Darren.
And Brandon, thank you all so much.
Have a great week, everybody. Bye now.